Tracy Miller, and you're watching Eat and Explore. On this show, we're going to take you from the kitchen all the way out to the trailhead. And today, I'm really excited because we are going to hike Beaver Lake Trail. It's a 3.3-mile hike to get to the lake. We're going to take a break up there and then hike down. 6.6 miles is what the total overall hike is, but don't worry, it is not that hard, and we're going to show you that today. It's a gorgeous fall day, and the real nice thing about today is that we have a group that's hiking with us. Some of the folks from TV8 have decided to play hooky, so we're going to hike in a group. We're going to let you know the obstacles of hiking with a group and also how much fun it is to hike with a group. A lot of us locals here in the Vail Valley, we use hiking as a time to socialize and catch up with our friends, so that's what we're going to get to do today with the TV8 crew as well. Once we get up to the lake, we're going to take a break, we're going to see what everybody's wearing, what they've got for lunch, and Mark Sassy brought his fishing pole, so we're going to do a little fishing as well in a high alpine lake. Before we head up to the Beaver Lake Trailhead, we're going to cook right here in the TV8 kitchen. I have a recipe that is so easy and so healthy, it's going to keep our energy high when we're up there at the lake. First of all, we start off with a butternut squash. Very healthy. It's a winter squash, one of the most popular squashes out there. I'm going to show you how to cut into this baby in an easy way. A lot of people don't like to eat squash because it's too hard to get into. You stick around and I'll show you how to get into it really easily. Then we are going to mix it with some protein-rich edamames. We're going to roast it all up together and serve it with a light lemon vinaigrette. It's so super easy. It's full of protein and carbohydrates, which is something you want when you're out on a hiking trail. I'm going to preheat the oven so we can roast up these veggies and make a super simple yet delicious salad. Stick around. You're watching Eat and Explore. Welcome back to Eat and Explore. We are going to explore the butternut squash today. This is the most popular winter squash out there. It's got a sweet flavor, and today we're going to roast it and add it to some edamame for a nice little salad on our hike, where we're going to have to stop, use a fork, and actually take a good break on this hike. But first of all, I wanted to show you a quick and easy way to get your butternut squash cut up. Now, a lot of people don't know this. I've got my edamame in the microwave, and now I'm going to put my washed and dried butternut squash in there. That's a little squash. Sometimes you can buy really big ones. For a little one, I'm going to cook it for about 1 minute on high, and I'll tell you why I'm going to do that in just a minute. But right now, we've got our edamame, and I like the frozen edamame. It's really, frozen vegetables are really getting a bad rap, and they definitely shouldn't get a bad rap because they are wonderful. First of all, convenience food that's actually healthy. I mean, that's totally up my alley. But what happens is when the farmers are picking their vegetables, they chop them off. Right when they chop a vegetable off the stem, it starts to lose some of its nutrients. When they freeze the vegetables, they chop them off and they freeze them right away. So frozen vegetables have tons of nutrients, are so good for you. They're easy on the pocketbook, and they're super simple to add to your weekly night dinner. So I have my edamame in here. I'm going to use about a cup of edamame. I'm going to sprinkle it with some kosher salt. And when you're working on recipes, if it ever says kosher salt, use a kosher salt. If you're baking, a lot of times they say use regular table salt. Use regular table salt. Okay, we've got 1 minute that our butternut squash was in the microwave. It's gonna be like hot squash right now. Ready? It's a little bit warm, not too bad, but cutting up a squash is something that a lot of people don't like to do. So I'm showing you a trick today to make it super duper easy. You take your butternut squash. The bulb at the bottom has a lot of meat. That's also where the seeds are. So what I'm gonna do is just cut it off right there at the bottom. Most of my seeds will be right there, so I'm going to have a lot of meat right here. This is going to make a nice firm spot for my butternut squash to stand. I'm also going to cut this off right here. Now, you just peel it. You can use a knife. Some people use their vegetable peelers. I just think a knife works a little bit better for me. And so now I'm going to peel it all the way down and around. And this is the best part too, because it makes it really easy to cut. When you cut up your butternut squash a little bit smaller, it roasts really quickly. So you'll notice a lot of times when you're cooking your squash, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need hours to do this. But if you cut it into small pieces, you really don't. Butternut squash and all of the squash family, super healthy for you, lots of vitamins, lots of beta carotene in this one. So see, now I have a full hunk of meat. I'm just gonna get rid of those seeds so I don't have to deal with those too much. You can roast them and enjoy them in your salad if you want to. But we've got our nice piece of meat, and now we're going to cut it down. Cut it down into thin strips. See, this kind of helps to par cook it just a little bit too. My squash is pretty hot. Actually, this one's slippery, so I'm just gonna take it this way. And then you just kind of cut it into these little strips. It's not like it's the easiest thing to cut, but if you make it a little bit easier, then you're actually gonna eat the butternut squash. Then you pile it up like this, cut it into more strips, and you've got yourself a nice, super simple way to cut little tiny chunks. I want these chunks the same size as my edamame because when I mix them together, they're gonna cook at the same time. So I've got them cut up into little tiny pieces. I'm gonna do equal parts, so I'm just gonna do about a cup of butternut squash right here with my edamame, so a cup of each. I'm gonna sprinkle it with a little more kosher salt. So we're gonna use about a half a teaspoon, and then I'm gonna drizzle it with some olive oil. This olive oil is just gonna make it really nice and tender. It's gonna help it cook and not stick to my pan. We're gonna mix this with a nice little vinaigrette and some sunflower seeds after it's roasted. When you're roasting, you want your oven at a very high temperature. So I'm gonna put this into the oven at 425 degrees. We're gonna cook it for about 10 minutes or so, pull it out, let it cool down, and then I'm gonna mix in some sunflower seeds and a little lemon vinaigrette. I'm gonna pack it up and we're gonna go hiking. So let's pop this in the oven. Roasting is at a high temperature for just a little bit of time. So we have our roasted edamame and butternut squash. It's been roasting at 425 for about 10 minutes, maybe 11 minutes. I might have forgotten about it for a minute. And it was sprinkled with salt and olive oil. So now it's gonna give a nice crunchy texture. The sweetness of the butternut squash is gonna come out, and that edamame is gonna add a pop to this salad. I'm just gonna let it cool down. We are gonna be eating this salad cold on the trail. If you wanted to, you could serve this as a side dish and you could eat it nice and warm too. But right now, we've just got our squash and our edamames, super duper healthy here. And then we're hiking. So what do we think about when we're hiking? We think about seeds and nuts. So I'm gonna add a little salty flavor with some sunflower seeds. We'll do about 1/4 cup of sunflower seeds. Mix that right in. And then I have a super simple vinaigrette, which is just salt and pepper, olive oil, and lemon juice. And I'm just gonna drizzle that kind of over the top. That's gonna be good cold, or once again, it would be good kind of warm. We're gonna stir it around, and there we go. We've got a nice little salad that's packed with vitamins and minerals, nice flavors, good roasting flavors, and a little bit of salt from those sunflower seeds. That edamame has a crunch, but it still has the nice creamy texture that you love from edamame. This is the roasted butternut squash. We're gonna let it cool down just a little bit. I'm gonna pack it up in a Tupperware. I'm gonna put a fork in my Camelback, and we're gonna be out of here going hiking. So we'll be right back. The Beaver Lake Trailhead starts right here at the top of Elk Track Road. There's two ways to get up here. You can either park in Avon at one of the Beaver Creek lots, take the free shuttle all the way up to the village, or you can park at Ford Hall in Beaver Creek. It all starts at the village, and then you walk up towards the mountain. You'll pass the Five Senses Trail and the Beaver Creek Chapel on your left, continue walking up on the sidewalk. Once the sidewalk ends, continue walking up. That's going to be kind of the theme of today. You'll continue walking up on Elk Track Road for about a quarter of a mile, and then you'll reach the trailhead. It's always good to check out the map before you start your hike. Today is an exciting day because we're going to be hiking with a group. We've got a bunch of the TV8 clan out here for team building and just for some fun. So we'll tell you about the obstacles when hiking with a group and how much fun it can be. We're also going to share the butternut edamame salad once we get to the lake, which is 3.3 miles. On the way, we will be getting a little elevation gain on a wagon road, which will be nice for chit-chatting on the way. Then we're going to stop at the bridge and get a beautiful photo and give you some tips on how to take great outdoor photos. And then we'll finish the hike and take a break up at the lake. Mark Sassy brought his fishing pole, and he's going to show me a few helpful hints on how to catch the fish in a high alpine lake. It's a beautiful fall day up here at Beaver Lake Trail, and we're going to tell you the science behind the changing leaves on our hike back down. It's time to start our hike. I have water and my edamame salad in my backpack. Now we're going to show you what else you should bring when you're outside hiking. The start of the hike is pretty tough. It's right uphill, but then you hit this sign and it starts to even out just a little bit, and at this time of year, it's absolutely majestic as you walk up through the golden aspens. Hiking in groups is a lot of fun, and it's an activity that anyone can do from age 5 to age 65. There are some challenges while you're hiking in groups though. Some of them are that you have to have a different pace, and you also have to be aware of the people in front of you and behind you while you're hiking.
One of the obstacles hiking with a group is people not hiking at the same pace. So you're either way ahead or way behind, and if you're trying to stay together, it's a little more difficult. Everybody kind of has to gauge their speed so you can all stay together and have conversations and enjoy the time together.
After the wagon trail kind of opens up, it's a lot of uphill, so this is a nice open area to get some sun and have a water break. You're also under chair 11, which makes me start thinking about winter. And over to the left of me is the brand new women's downhill race course. That's called Kestrel. We're going to keep walking uphill a little bit. We'll see more of Beaver Creek Ski Resort, and we're also going to pass by Beano's.
I hike up to Beano's cabin to go to work. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful trail. It goes along the creek. I see wild strawberries, wild raspberries, thimbleberries, gooseberry currants, edible flowers and leaves. Not to mention stop and check out the trout. My name is Bill Green. I'm the executive chef at Beano's Cabin in Beaver Creek, Colorado. Frank Bienikowski was the guy who originally settled here. He settled here in about 1890. Right behind me is the Beano's Cabin restaurant, but the actual cabin is right over here on the hillside where he lived. The land that the cabin sits on was originally a lettuce farm. The natural springs up here just flood this whole valley with water. And so he would farm the whole hillside. He would harvest that and sell all the lettuces all summer long. The food at Beano's Cabin is definitely high-end, but I like to give it a little bit more like kind of the saying, like barbaric elegant. It's elegant, but it's presented in a manner that kind of looks rustic and has that rustic feel, but with big flavors. For me to be a chef up here and to have this garden definitely pushes me to innovate more, because you want to use everything you can in more unique ways than you would ever see in another restaurant.
about a mile into our 3.3-mile hike up to Beaver Lake, and Beaver Creek has been trickling beside us the whole way up. We just came off of the old wagon road that had a lot of aspen trees, and now we're getting more into the forest. And as you can see right behind me, there's a beautiful bridge. Beaver Lake Trail is wonderful in the spring, the summer, the fall, or the winter. It's a great snowshoeing hike as well. But in the spring, some of the runoff right here can be pretty gnarly, and the bridge sometimes can be underwater. Today, on this gorgeous fall day, you can see that the bridge is not underwater, so this is a great spot to stop, maybe take a photo, and refuel on some water for the rest of the hike. On Beaver Lake Trail, after you come out of the aspen groves, the trail kind of opens up and the terrain changes quite a bit. You get into more of a high alpine hike. It's a wide trail, but there's lots of big boulders that you have to navigate around. And there's also a lot of pine trees, which reminds you that you're on a mountain. You're actually on Beaver Creek Ski Mountain, and if you look behind me, you can see where the chairs are. We're gonna pass by chair 11 when we head back down the mountain, but it's gorgeous up here today. When you are hiking, it's good for your legs and it prepares you for ski season. It works your quads and your hamstrings and your calves. And some people that have either been injured in the past, are a little bit older, or just have sore knees like to use poles while they're hiking.
I like them both up and down. I know some people just use them one way or the other, but again, like going up, it helps you kind of push your way up the hill, and going down kind of slows you down and works on your balance. They give me more confidence and stability when I'm hiking.
Poles also increase your workout by utilizing your arm strength. When we return, we reach our destination and explore Beaver Lake. We finally made it up here to Beaver Lake. It was 1,700 feet of elevation gain, but I'll tell you what, it didn't really feel like that. It was nice and warm. It's a gorgeous autumn day. The leaves are crisp and colorful, and it's a little cooler up here at the lake where we're gonna stop for a picnic. So I had to bring another layer out, but it's a gorgeous lake, a small, high alpine lake, and lots of fun things to look at and lots of great activities up here. So I'm gonna take a break and eat that butternut squash and edamame salad and just rest these legs for a minute. Oh boy, this log right here at Beaver Lake, there's actually a little fire pit right next to it. I can just imagine a warm summer evening hanging out right here, fishing and hiking. But right now it's a cool autumn afternoon and I have my butternut squash edamame salad. My group ate some of it, so don't forget, when you are hiking with a group, you might want to bring a few extra snacks so you can share them. I'm going to rehydrate with water right now too, and I'm just going to enjoy the solid protein and carbs that I have right here in this butternut squash. And you know, it's orange, which means it's really good for you because it has a lot of beta carotene. You know what else has carotene? The changing leaves. And when we hike down the Beaver Lake Trail, we'll talk all about photosynthesis and why the leaves change color. Fall weather is ever changing up here in the high country. You can start off in the morning at 25 degrees and by 3 in the afternoon it's a whopping 75 degrees. The one thing that never changes up here in the high country is the intensity of the sun. So when you're hiking or you're outside, make sure that you protect your body from the sun. A good pair of sunglasses is always a great choice. Sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher is always a good choice, and make sure you reapply as well to protect your skin. And don't forget those kissers, because lips can burn as well, and you want to have a chapstick that has an SPF and that also hydrates your lips, because it's very arid and dry up here in the high country, and that coupled with the sunshine can really be troubling to skin and lips. So reapply, protect yourself from the sun. Our in-house fly fishing expert, Mark Sassy, sheds light on the difference between lake and river fishing.
River fishing is a lot different than fishing in still water like this lake, like Beaver Lake, only because the food sources are not as plentiful in a lake as they are in a river. So you have to kind of change your thought process and think, now, how are the fish going to feed and where do they feed in a lake? They look for the inlets where the water comes in, because a lot of bugs and nutrients for the fish are carried through that faster moving water. So they hang out at the inlets, and they'll hang out on the other side of the lakes at the outlets. And typically in the middle of the pond, they'll circle around, but they're not as easy to catch. So right here where we're fishing, there's an inlet where the stream comes in, and I was fishing with just a little pheasant tail, which is a normal fly that I would use, let's say on the Eagle River, but you fish it a little bit differently. Your presentation's a little bit different.
One of the downsides about hiking with a big group is you make a lot of noise and you do a lot of talking, so it scares away any wildlife in the area. Today I've heard some woodpeckers and I've seen some squirrels, but other than that, we've got too many people. But as you can see by this underground hole, there are snakes and foxes that habitat the area, and there's a lot of wildlife up here in the high country. Why do leaves change color in the fall anyways? Photosynthesis is a process where leaves and different organisms take in carbon dioxide and sunlight, they process it, and then they let it out as oxygen and food. Leaves are made up of 3 properties. Chlorophyll gives them their green color, carotene gives them their orange color, and xanthophyll gives them their yellow color. All these properties are in leaves, but when they're photosynthesizing, the chlorophyll is the real workhorse here. Shorter days spark trees to get ready for hibernation. They can't continue to photosynthesize in the winter because of the dry air and the lack of sunlight. So they seal the leaves out of the tree and stop producing chlorophyll. Once they stop producing that chlorophyll, then carotene and xanthophyll can start shining through. So that's why we get the beautiful yellow and orange colors. We're just about finished our hike up here at Beaver Lake Trail, and it was a beautiful autumn day. The hike is 3.3 miles to get to the lake, which is a high alpine lake, and those are pretty rare. They actually had some fish in them as well. There's only about 9 high alpine lakes around the valley. And the hike itself and the elevation gain, it wasn't that bad. I highly suggest Beaver Lake Trail if you're heading out for a hike any time of the year. One of my favorite things about hiking is hiking with friends, and we had a big group from TV8 today, which was so much fun. You get to enjoy the outdoors, reconnect with your friends, check out nature, and get some exercise to prepare for ski season. For Eat and Explore, I'm Tracy Miller. Anne's behind the camera. Thanks so much for joining us, and don't forget, hiking is a great way to spend the day.